They say grief is the price we pay for love. But what happens when someone steals your right to grieve properly? My mother died 5 years ago, and my sister told me she left nothing behind. No letters. No final words. Just silence. I believed her. I spent 5 years drowning in that silence, wondering if I mattered enough for a goodbye. Then I found a box under my sister's bed. Inside were dozens of letters, all in my mother's handwriting. Some addressed to her. Some addressed to me. My sister had hidden them. For 5 years, she let me believe I wasn't worth my mother's last words. And when I finally read those letters, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered. Welcome to my Reddit diaries, where every story reveals the unseen battles within families. Don't forget to subscribe, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The rain came down hard the day we buried our mother. I remember standing under that black umbrella, watching the coffin lower into the ground, and thinking how fitting it was. Even the sky was crying. My sister Claire stood beside me, dry-eyed and stone-faced, like she'd already used up all her tears somewhere I couldn't see. I was falling apart. She was holding me up. That's how it always was with us. Mom had died suddenly. A stroke in the middle of the night. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. One day she was here, reminding me to eat better and asking when I'd visit again. The next day, she was gone. Just like that. Erased from the world like she'd never existed. After the funeral, Claire took charge of everything. The estate. The apartment. Mom's belongings. She sorted through decades of our mother's life in a matter of weeks, packing things into boxes with the efficiency of someone who couldn't afford to feel. I tried to help, but every time I picked up one of Mom's sweaters or saw her handwriting on an old grocery list, I'd break down. Claire would look at me with something between pity and frustration, then gently take whatever I was holding and tell me to go home. To rest. To let her handle it. So I did. I let her handle everything. One night, about a month after the funeral, I called her. It was late. I'd been drinking, trying to numb the ache that wouldn't go away. Did she leave anything? I asked. My voice sounded raw, desperate. A note? A letter? Anything? There was a long pause on the other end. Then Claire's voice, calm and measured. No, Daniel. Nothing. She didn't have time. But she had to know she was sick. There had to be signs. She had to. There wasn't anything. I looked. I promise. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because the alternative, that my mother had left this world without a single word for me, was too painful to accept. So I buried that pain alongside her and tried to move on. 5 years passed. Life continued in that strange way it does after loss. I got a new job. Moved to a better apartment. Started dating someone. But something always felt unfinished. Like a book with the last chapter torn out. Mom was gone, but she haunted me in ways I couldn't explain. Dreams where she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her voice. Moments where I'd turn to call her about good news, then remember she wasn't there to answer. And Claire? She became a stranger. We'd meet for obligatory family dinners on holidays, but the warmth we'd once shared had frozen over. She was always busy, always distracted. Whenever I brought up Mom, she'd change the subject or make an excuse to leave. It was like she'd buried our mother so completely that even the memory of her was too much to bear. I started to resent her for it. For moving on so easily. For being strong when I was still broken. For looking at me sometimes like I was weak for not being over it yet. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Hey, I need a favor. Claire's voice was rushed, businesslike. I'm going out of town for a conference. Can you house sit? Water the plants, grab the mail, that kind of thing? I almost said no. I didn't want to spend a week in her cold, sterile apartment, surrounded by her perfectly organized life. But something in her voice, a hint of desperation maybe, made me agree. Sure. Yeah. When? Tomorrow. I'll leave a key under the mat. Thanks, Daniel. I owe you one. She hung up before I could ask any questions. The first few days were uneventful. I watered her plants, scrolled through Netflix on her couch, avoided thinking too hard about the fact that this place felt nothing like a home. Claire had always been neat, but this was something else. Every book on the shelf arranged by height. Every surface spotless. It was like she was afraid that if anything was out of place, she might fall apart. On the third night, I couldn't sleep. Her guest bed was too firm, and the apartment was too quiet. I got up to look for extra blankets, remembering she kept some in her bedroom closet. That's when it happened. I was reaching for the closet door when my elbow caught the lamp on her nightstand. It tipped, crashed against the side of the bed frame, and shattered on the floor. I cursed, dropping to my knees to pick up the pieces. That's when I saw it. Wedged far under the bed, pushed back against the wall, was a box. A small wooden box wrapped in fabric. I pulled it out and my heart stopped. The fabric was a scarf. Mom's scarf. The blue one with the yellow flowers she wore every spring. My hands shook as I unwrapped it. Inside the box were envelopes. Dozens of them. All in Mom's handwriting. That careful, slanted script I'd recognize anywhere. Some were addressed to Claire. My dearest Claire. Others were addressed to me. My Daniel. There were dates on them, spanning 2 years. The most recent dated 3 weeks before she died. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. My mother had written to us. She'd left us words, thoughts, pieces of herself. And Claire had hidden them. For 5 years, she'd let me believe there was nothing. That I wasn't worth a goodbye. I sat there on Claire's bedroom floor, surrounded by broken lamp pieces and my mother's stolen words, and felt something inside me crack wide open. Betrayal. Rage. Grief. All of it crashing together like a wave I couldn't escape. My hands moved on their own. I grabbed one envelope. Just one. Addressed to me. Dated 3 weeks before Mom died. I tore it open, my vision blurring with tears I couldn't control. The first line punched the air from my lungs. Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means your sister finally found the courage to give you what I couldn't say out loud. I read it again. And again. The words wouldn't change. Your sister finally found the courage to give you what I couldn't say out loud. Claire was supposed to give me these letters. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. Mom had written these for us, and Claire had made a choice. A deliberate, calculated choice to hide them from me. I looked down at the box. At all the other letters still sealed. All the words I'd been denied for 5 years. And I realized something that made my blood run cold. My entire grief had been built on a lie. Every tear I'd cried, every night I'd wondered if I'd mattered to my mother, every moment I'd felt abandoned by her silence had been constructed around Claire's deception. She hadn't protected me. She'd stolen from me. She'd stolen my mother's voice from beyond the grave and let me suffer in silence. I reached for another letter. Then another. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open them, but I couldn't stop. I had to know. I had to hear what my mother had wanted to say to me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a darker question began to form. One that terrified me more than the betrayal itself. If Claire had hidden this from me, what else had she lied about? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on Claire's living room floor surrounded by my mother's letters and read until the sun came up. Each envelope I opened felt like unearthing a piece of someone I thought I knew but never really understood. The first letter to me was an apology. Mom wrote about my teenage years, about how distant she'd been after Dad left. She admitted she'd been drowning in depression, barely keeping her head above water, and she thought staying away from me was protecting me from her darkness. She wrote, I see now that my silence hurt you more than my sadness ever could have. I thought I was being strong. I was just being absent. And I'm so sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry I let you grow up thinking you weren't enough to fight for. I had to stop reading. The words blurred through my tears. All those years I'd thought she just didn't care about me as much as she cared about Claire. That I'd done something wrong. That I wasn't the son she wanted. And here she was, telling me she'd loved me so much it terrified her. That she'd pushed me away because she was afraid her pain would infect me. The second letter was lighter. A memory of a camping trip we'd taken when I was 12. She described watching Claire and me try to build a fire, how we'd argued about the right way to stack the wood, how we'd finally figured it out together and sat by those flames telling stupid jokes until midnight. She wrote, that night watching you two laugh, I felt like maybe I'd done something right. Maybe despite all my failures, I'd given you each other. Hold on to that, Daniel. Hold on to your sister. She needs you more than she'll ever admit. I looked at the letter in my hand and felt my jaw tighten. Hold on to my sister. The sister who'd kept these words from me for 5 years. The sister who'd looked me in the eye and lied. I kept reading. Letter after letter. Some were memories. Some were confessions. Some were just her rambling thoughts about books she was reading or birds she saw outside her window. In one, she admitted she was scared of dying. Not of death itself, but of leaving us without preparing us for it. She wrote, I'm not ready to let go. But I'm running out of time to hold on. Then I found a letter addressed to Claire. I hesitated. This wasn't meant for me. But my anger overrode my guilt, and I opened it anyway. My darling Claire, thank you for being strong. Thank you for holding this family together when I couldn't. But please, please don't let that strength become a prison. Don't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders just because you can. Let yourself break sometimes. Let your brothers see you're human. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't push away the people who love you because you're afraid they'll see your pain. I read it 3 times. Mom had known. She'd seen what Claire was doing to herself, the walls she was building, the way she was sacrificing her own grief to be the strong one. And she'd begged her not to. Another letter to Claire mentioned the diagnosis. Mom had known she was dying 6 months before it happened. She'd kept it secret from both of us, writing, I can't tell them. If I tell them, it becomes real. If I tell them, every moment we have left will be poisoned by the countdown. I'd rather have 6 months of pretending than 6 months of goodbye. My hands were shaking. She'd known. She'd known she was dying and she'd faced it alone. No wonder these letters existed. They were the goodbye she couldn't say to our faces. Then I found the instructions. A letter to Claire dated 2 weeks before Mom died. Claire, I'm leaving you with an impossible task and I'm sorry. When I'm gone, there will be letters for both of you. Give Daniel his when he's ready. Not right away. He'll need time. But don't wait too long. He'll be angry when he reads them. He'll feel betrayed that I kept so much from him. Let him be angry. Let him grieve however he needs to. But don't let him go through life thinking I didn't love him enough to say goodbye. Promise me, Claire. Promise me you'll give him my words. The letter slipped from my fingers. Claire hadn't just hidden these from me. She directly disobeyed our mother's dying wish. Mom had trusted her with this one thing and she'd failed. Or worse, she'd chosen not to do it. I heard the front door unlock. My head snapped up. Claire stepped inside, pulling a suitcase behind her. She froze when she saw me sitting there, surrounded by letters. Her face went white. Not angry. Not defensive. Just terrified. Daniel. Her voice was barely a whisper. You came back early. I didn't recognize my own voice. It sounded hollow, distant. The conference got cancelled and she saw the open letters in my hands. Her eyes went to the box, to the scarf. Oh God. She asked you to give them to me. I stood up slowly. She specifically asked you. And you didn't. Claire dropped her suitcase. She moved to the couch and collapsed into it, her hands covering her face. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then, I couldn't. You couldn't? Or you wouldn't? Both. She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in my sister's eyes before. Raw, unfiltered fear. I read them the day after the funeral. All of them. Every single letter she wrote to me was about how I needed to be strong, how I needed to take care of you, how I needed to hold everything together. And I was trying, Daniel. I was trying so hard. But I was drowning. And if I gave you those letters, if I had to watch you read them and fall apart all over again, I knew I'd break too. And I couldn't let that happen. Because if we both broke, there'd be no one left. That wasn't your choice to make. I know. Tears were streaming down her face now. I know. But I didn't know how to give them to you without admitting I'd already failed. Mom's letters to me were full of things she regretted, things she wished she'd done differently. And all I could think was that I was failing her the same way. I was making the same mistakes. Pushing you away. Hiding behind strength because I was too scared to be vulnerable. So you decided to let me suffer? To let me think she didn't care? I thought I was protecting you. Her voice cracked. You were already falling apart, Daniel. If you'd read those letters right after she died, it would have destroyed you. You weren't ready. And you got to decide that? You got to decide when I was ready to hear my own mother's words. I was shouting now, all the rage and grief of 5 years pouring out. You had no right, Claire. No right. She stood up, her own anger finally flaring. She asked me to be strong. Every day of my life, she asked me to be the strong one. The responsible one. The one who fixes everything. And I couldn't even do that right. I couldn't give you the letters because I was selfish and scared, and I've hated myself for it every single day. We stood there, both breathing hard, 5 years of unspoken pain filling the space between us. Then I saw it. Another envelope, half hidden under the couch where it must have fallen when Claire came in. I picked it up. The handwriting was shakier than the others, like Mom's hand had been trembling when she wrote it. It was sealed with red wax. The address made my blood run cold. To my daughters, if I didn't have the courage. I looked at Claire. She was staring at the envelope, her face ashen. What does that mean? We're not. I don't know. I broke the seal and pulled out the letter. My eyes scanned the first paragraph, and the room started spinning. Daniel? What does it say? I looked up at my sister, and everything we thought we knew about our mother shattered into pieces. Claire, we have a sister. Claire grabbed the letter from my hands and read it herself. I watched her face change as the words sank in. Our mother, at 17, had given birth to a daughter. A baby she'd named Sarah before handing her to the adoption agency. Mom wrote about holding her for 2 hours, memorizing her face, knowing she'd never see her again. She wrote about the father, a boy who'd disappeared the moment he found out she was pregnant. She wrote about her parents, who'd given her an ultimatum. Give up the baby or get out. She'd chosen the baby's future over her own pride. Claire's hands were shaking. She carried this her whole life. Alone. Just like you carried these letters. The words came out before I could stop them. She looked at me, and something passed between us. An understanding. Our mother had kept secrets because the truth was too painful to share. Claire had done the same thing. Maybe we all did. Maybe that's just what families were, layers of secrets stacked on top of love, each generation passing down their pain in different ways. We spent that night reading the letter over and over. Mom had written about searching for Sarah online over the years, wondering if she was happy, if she'd had a good life, if she ever thought about the mother who'd given her away. She'd found an obituary for the adoptive parents 3 years ago, but never found Sarah herself. The letter ended with a plea. If you find her, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her she was wanted. Tell her not a day went by that I didn't carry her with me. We have to find her, I said. Claire looked uncertain. What if she doesn't want to be found? What if we drag her into our mess and ruin her life? What if Mom wanted us to find her? What if that's why she wrote this? We hired a private investigator the next morning. It took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of dead ends and false leads and moments where we almost gave up. But then we got a name. Sarah Mitchell. I am 38 years old. Living in Portland. A nurse at a children's hospital. Married with 2 kids. We found her Facebook profile. Claire and I sat side by side, staring at the screen. Sarah had Mom's eyes. The same shape, the same color. It was like looking at a ghost. I sent her a message. Simple. Direct. My name is Daniel. I think we might be related. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. She responded 2 hours later. I know who you are. I found your mother's obituary 6 months ago. I was too late. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our cities. Claire and I drove together in silence, both terrified of what was about to happen. When we walked in, Sarah was already there. She stood up when she saw us, and I watched her eyes fill with tears. You look like her, she said to Claire. We sat down. The conversation was awkward at first, stilted. But then Sarah told us her story. She'd always known she was adopted. Her parents had been honest about it, loving about it. She'd had a good childhood. But there was always a question mark in her life, a wondering about the woman who'd given birth to her. She'd thought about searching for years but never had the courage. Then, a few months ago, she'd finally worked up the nerve to look. That's when she'd found the obituary. I thought I'd missed my chance, she said. I thought I'd never know anything about her. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of every letter Mom had written, including the one addressed to the daughter she'd never known. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened it. She read in silence while Claire and I waited. When she finished, she was crying. She thought about me. Every day, I said. She wrote about you. She wondered about you. She loved you. We spent the next 3 hours in that coffee shop. Sarah told us about her life, her kids, her work. We told her about Mom, about growing up with her, about the complicated, messy, beautiful woman she'd been. We showed her photos. We shared memories. And slowly, something formed between us. Not quite family yet, but the beginning of it. A connection forged through absence and loss and the courage to reach across the gap. When we finally left, Sarah hugged us both. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for finding me. On the drive home, Claire and I didn't talk much. But it was a different kind of silence. Not the cold distance that had defined us for 5 years, but something softer. Something healing. Finally, Claire spoke. I'm sorry, Daniel. For everything. For hiding the letters. For lying to you. For making you think you didn't matter. I kept my eyes on the road. I know why you did it now. Doesn't make it right. But I understand. Do you forgive me? I thought about it. I really thought about it. I'm getting there. It's going to take time. But yet, I think I do. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I don't know if I forgive myself yet. Mom wrote those letters because she couldn't say the truth out loud, I said. You hid them for the same reason. Maybe we're all just trying to protect the people we love from the things that break us. Maybe that's what family is. 6 months later, the 3 of us stood at Mom's grave together for the first time. It was spring, and the flowers Claire had planted were starting to bloom. We each brought a letter. Our favorites. The ones that had changed us. Claire read hers first. The one where Mom told her it was okay to not be strong all the time. Sarah read the letter Mom had written to her, her voice breaking on the words about being wanted and loved. And I read the one about the camping trip, about laughter and firelight and the bond between siblings. When we finished, we stood in silence. Then Sarah spoke. I wish I'd known her. You do now, Claire said. Through her words. That's something. We walked away together, the 3 of us. A family built from secrets and loss and the courage to face the truth. It wasn't perfect. We were still figuring out how to be siblings, how to navigate this strange new constellation we'd become. But we were trying. And that was enough. I learned something in those months after finding the letters. Grief doesn't care about fairness. It makes people do things they never thought they'd do. Hoard memories. Hide pain. Push away the ones they love most. Claire didn't steal my mother's words out of hate. She hid them because she was terrified of feeling anything at all. And maybe that's the real lesson. We all carry letters we're too afraid to read. Truths we're not ready to face. But when you finally open them, when you let yourself feel the weight of what was left unsaid, that's when healing begins. My mother left us letters because she ran out of time to say goodbye. My sister hid them because she ran out of strength to let go. And I found them because some truths refused to stay buried. Forgiveness isn't about erasing what someone did. It's about understanding why they did it. It's about looking at the wreckage of their choices and seeing the fear underneath. Mom's gone. But her words gave us back each other. They gave us Sarah. They gave us a chance to build something new from something broken. And that's a kind of resurrection I never expected. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't what someone leaves behind. It's finding the courage to share it. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe to my Reddit diaries for more stories about the hidden battles within families. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done in Daniel's situation. Would you have confronted your sister immediately, or would you have read all the letters first? I read every comment, and your stories matter to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.